Hello, my grots and gits, and welcome back to another incredible episode of Happy Crumpin' Wargaming. I'm very excited to have you join us today because we're going to be speaking about something really darn exciting. These are some super weird rules and interactions. They're so weird, in fact, that we needed the weird boy himself to be hanging out with us to explain to us how weird they are. So today, we're going to go through a bunch of stuff that's going to hopefully help to clarify a lot of these weird interactions that many people are playing wrong in the game. And it's going to make you a better player so that you can just have more fun in general. So let's jump right on into it. The very first episode, or the very first thing I want to talk about today is going to be how Makari and the Wa interaction operates. This is something that people are getting very, very wrong all over the place due to a specific tournament who made a FAQ change that was only applicable to that tournament. All right, so Makari and the Wa interaction. For those of you who do not know, let me just go ahead and read it to you, what the Wa ability is for orcs. Orcs from your army are eligible to declare a charge in a turn in which they advance. Add 1 to the strength and attacks characteristics of melee weapons equipped by orcs models from your army, and the orcs models from your army have a 5-up in vulnerable save. That is the Wa ability. Now, what the controversy comes from is the way that Makari's special ability works, and the way the knob on with a Wa banner's special ability works. So let me go ahead and read you the abilities, and then I'm going to explain the controversy. I'm going to explain why it's really shouldn't be controversial at all. It just doesn't work. So Makari's special ability reads, while a friendly orcs unit is within 12 inches of Makari, if you have called a Wa this battle round, melee weapons equipped by models in that unit have the lethal hits ability. It is a very strong ability, and I freaking love it. And if I could take Makari by himself, and I wouldn't have to have the points tax on Gaz, I 100% would. Now, some people thought that this would stack very, very well with the knob with Wa banner's special ability. And in theory, it could, but it just doesn't work. So the knob with Wa banner's special ability, called Plant the Wa banner, once per battle, at the start of this battle round, this model can use this ability. If it does, until the start of the next battle round, this model units gain the benefits of the Wa ability as if you had called a Wa this battle round. So what some people were saying is that since this unit gets the Wa again, they would benefit from Makari's aura again, which would be really, really strong. The only problem is it doesn't work because Makari's ability does not affect people affected by the Wa. Makari's ability only affects when you have called the Wa. And in a turn where this particular unit benefits as if they had called the Wa, they only get the benefits of the Wa ability. I know I just said Wa a lot, but bear with me here. Makari's ability is a separate ability. It is called Gazgul's Wa banner. And that says, while a friendly orcs unit within 12 inches, if you have called a Wa, then you get the ability. However, if you read the knob's ability, you haven't called the Wa. You just get the benefits of the Wa as if you had called the Wa. It's not actually calling it, so you only get the benefits. And the benefits of the Wa are very clearly orcs from your army are eligible to declare a charge in a turn in which they advanced, add 1 to the strength and attacks characteristics, and a 5-up in vulnerable save. So sadly, no. Makari cannot give a unit of boys or a unit of knobs that have a knob with Wa banner attached to it a second round of lethal hits. It doesn't work. It is completely against the rules as written. There was one tournament and it was LVO, so people got this concept in their head that it actually works because LVO ruled that it can work, and that's fine. Any tournament can make whatever FAQ ruling they want, but it is directly opposed to the way the rules in the game are written. It's actually not even controversial. It's very clearly written. And sadly enough, that also means that if you have a war boss who is being led, who's leading like a unit of boys, and they also have a knob with Wa banner in the unit, no, you cannot use the war boss's special ability again either. The war boss's special ability will add 4 to the attacks characteristics of the war boss during a turn which you had called the Wa. The problem is the Wa banner doesn't give you his ability again. It just gives the unit the Wa ability, but it doesn't allow you to proc his ability because you haven't called the Wa again. It gets a little bit confusing, but basically all you need to understand, and yeah, I'm sure there's going to be people arguing in the comments, and feel free. And no, I love you all, and I want orcs to really, really do well, and I love them. I think orcs are in a good place right now, and I'm really excited about the codex, but this interaction just does not work. If you have a specific tournament that have asked for it to work, sure, go ahead, have fun with it, but it does not work. You cannot give the lethal hits aura again to a unit just because you have a knob with Wa banner. Doesn't work, sadly. If you're ever confused by it, literally just read the wording again. And it's very clear that the only thing the knob with Wa banner gives you is the benefits of the Wa ability. not abilities that are procced off of the wall. Okay, I've beaten that dead horse to death. Beaten a dead horse to death? Well, I would play Vampire account. I don't know. I'm moving on. Anyway, let's talk about the next interesting one. Now, this one is much less controversial. It's just something that's a really interesting interaction. And it's the reason why I want to demonstrate this is so that I can demonstrate to all of you how to actually read and interpret rules, because it can be very challenging in the game of Warhammer 40,000. As a matter of fact, I think I'm putting together just like a webinar, like a Zoom webinar. I'm gonna let a bunch of people register for it, and we're just gonna do a workshop on how to actually read rules, because believe it or not, it's hard. It's not freaking easy. So, Doombolt is a special ability that comes from your 1,000 Suns. And they have these Cabal points that they can generate to use these special abilities. Well, Doombolt is pretty darn powerful. It basically allows you to select one unit within 18 inches, and you can cause like D3 plus, or D6 plus 3 wounds, or 6 plus D3 wounds, or nothing if you roll a 1. It's kind of irrelevant. Well, what people are wondering is, can you use the Doombolt special ability, and can you use a Psychic Dominion stratagem to defend against the Doombolt? Let's say we had a 1,000 Suns player playing against a 1,000 Suns player, and I wanted to shoot a Doombolt at you. Can I use my stratagem called Psychic Dominion, which will give me a feel no pain against psychic attacks against that Doombolt? Well, initially, and this is confusing, but this is the way you have to think about it, guys. Initially, the answer would be no, because Doombolt is not a psychic attack; it is a special ability. However, in the rules commentary, this gets very annoying. Any attack made with a weapon that has a psychic ability is a psychic attack. Any mortal wounds inflicted by an ability that has a psychic tag are also psychic attacks. So the rules commentary would consider Doombolt as a psychic attack. However, you still can't use the stratagem to defend against it, because if you read this stratagem, I'm actually just going to kind of make it a little bit bigger so everyone can kind of focus in on here. Yeah, let me just pull it over right like this. Sorry about that. All right. When Psychic Dominion, the stratagem, any phase just after an enemy unit has selected its targets. 1,000 Suns unit from your army that was selected as the target of attack. The problem here is that a Doombolt, even if it counts as a psychic attack, it doesn't select you as a target of an attack. So you still can't use the stratagem to defend against it. If you could use the stratagem to defend against it, if say you use the stratagem to defend against some other psychic attack, and then they Doombolted, no problem. But all Cabals from 1,000 Suns all happen before shooting actually occurs, so it'll never occur. So no, you'll never be able to use Psychic Dominion to defend against Doombolt. It is a tragedy, and it is very, very sad. Let's move on to the next weird rules interaction I want to talk about. Now, this is actually something I brought up in a previous video, and it is a super awesome example of how to really mess with your opponents. And some people were very furious at me because I was a little bit lazy and I didn't do my demonstration exactly perfectly. So I'm going to explain this perfectly to everyone right now. How do you deny emergency disembark? Transports have a couple different rules. You can normally disembark within 3 inches of the transport, or if you are inside a transport when it is destroyed, you can do what's called a emergency disembark, only if you cannot wholly place your unit within 3 inches of the transport and outside of engagement range of your enemy. If you can't do that, then you have to do what's called an emergency disembark, which is where you will get a 6-inch range to disembark all of your models. At that point in time, if you can't place all of your models, then everything that you can't place just dies. Well, is it possible to force an entire unit to just die? Well, look at this example I kind of made here. What I did is I took a 10-man unit of Death Company, and I had them surround this Rhino. And the Rhino is full of a 10-man whatever squad. I'll just put it on a 32 millimeter base. I just put Assault Marines here. I know they have jetpacks, so they can't go to Rhino. Just ignore that. I just use the model because that's what I had on hand, okay? But let's say there are 32 millimeter bases on it. Well, a 32 millimeter base is approximately 1.25 millimeters. Math hammer alert. Engagement range of a 1.25 inch base is actually going to be a diameter of 3.25. I know, that's math. Well, if you have a 3.25 engagement bubble of a normal 32 millimeter base, and you stand 1.24 millimeters away from the destroyed transport, they cannot place a model in between the destroyed transport and in between destroyed transport and the models that are blocking you. So in this example, I have all these guys out in line in red placed, and I have a red circle of 1 inch around all of them. So you cannot put any of these blue guys, who would be the ones who are disembarking, using the emergency disembark rule, in between the Rhino and the models, simply because they would overlap with the red models in this scenario. Now, I can put all the blue guys on the outer ring, but I can't place them incoherently. They're incoherency. There are going to be 3 locations where you can place one model. However, due to coherency rules, everything will immediately die if they're not in coherency until the unit is within coherency. So at this point in time, all of the models will immediately die except for one model. So if you are out in an open field like this, you and your opponent does the circle correctly, and then the transport is destroyed, say in shooting or whatever, you will not be able to place any models other than one. Technically, you'll be able to place them, but then they'll die to coherency. So you can place these 3 models that are face up, and then they will die to coherency. If you look at all the guys I have face down, I have placed them face down in positions where it might look like they could be placed, but they can't. And I do have a circle around, a 1 inch circle around them showing why they can't be placed there. It might not look perfect on your screen, so that's why I flipped it face down so that you could really tell the difference, okay? So here we have 10 Marines in red blocking the emergency disembark. There are 3 spots, so that's why there are 3 blue guys that are on their feet and not flipped face down, where a guy could legally disembark here. But then 2 of them would immediately die to coherency problems, and then, or at the end of the turn, they would die due to coherency, and then the 1 would survive. So if you're in an open field and you have a 10-man strong unit, you can absolutely deny emergency disembark to all but 1 model, which is pretty dang effective. Now, if you are next to a ruins, and then it gets a little bit easier because models cannot stand in the middle of a ruin, which means that you can use the ruin to block off disembark as well, and you can actually completely deny all disembarkation. So the trick is you can't do a perfect circle with your red squad in this scenario. You have to have them staggered. If they're not staggered, then your opponent will be able to do an emergency disembark on the outer ring. So you have to have them staggered to make sure that you interrupt where they can actually be placed. So there it is. Now, if your opponent is on 25 millimeter bases or 24 millimeter bases, you can't block it. They're going to be able to put them somewhere. If they are on 40 millimeter bases, it becomes extremely easy to block it. So there are multiple different ways, but if you're in the open field, you can block all but 1. If you're in next to a ruin, you can block them all. That's the way it goes. A couple more today. We have fight on death abilities. Now, this has been a very, very interesting conversation that we've been having in the Discord a lot, and we really broke it down. So essentially, the question is this. If your unit is fighting on death, does it benefit from the leader's abilities? Well, pretty easy to answer the question, you would think. Actually not that easy. So when a unit fights on death, they're all dead, but do they count as still being led by a leader? It is very, very tricky. So what we had to do is we had to go up to the rules commentary to see how this would actually work. Because intuitively, you might just say, well, no, you can't be led by a model if you're dead. Or intuitively, you might also say, well, of course, it's one unit that starts the game. So why wouldn't you be count as being led? It's kind of interesting. However, the tricky thing is here. When you fight on death, with pretty much every fight on death rule I could find in the game, you actually fight on death before the attacking unit that killed you consolidates, which means it's mid-activation, which is the only time in the entire game where you have anything that interrupts a unit's activation. This is not like a fight's first ability that will activate before your enemy unit activates. This actually interrupts an activation. So, since it happens before the consolidation and before the actual finishing of the activation of the opponent's unit, well, what's inevitably going to have to occur is, persisting effects would come into effect, and your unit will still be counted as being led. Now, this is very controversial, and you're going to have people that will argue both ways, and you will have people who argue it intelligently both ways. There is no actual correct answer here. In my TTS tournaments and in my world, I 100% have just made the ruling. I've decided the answer is yes. You do benefit from having the leader, the leader. So like if we have a unit of 10 knobs and they fight on death, they do get the +1 to hit from being led by the war boss if a war boss is attached to them. I have just made that ruling that the answer is yes. Other people will make the ruling that the answer is no. Neither person is wrong because there is actually a very intelligent reason and rationale behind both arguments. This is something that GW actually has to FAQ. So what I recommend for you, if you are a person who has fight undeath abilities, say you play Sisters of Battle, you play Orcs, you play World Eaters, you play whatever, I would 100% ask your TO the answer. Hey, in your tournament, do units that fight undeath benefit from the leader's ability when they are fighting undeath? In Happy Company Wargaming in our TTS tournaments, which, by the way, the next one is occurring in the beginning of April, hop in the members only section in order to join us. But in our tournaments, the answer is yes. The leaders will still benefit the unit when they're fighting undeath. I can't say that for every single tournament simply because it is not clear and there is no 100% correct answer until GW gives us a 100% correct answer. So it is going to be up to tournament organizers to answer it. That's that. Second thing about fight undeath abilities, and this one is much less controversial, it's just something that people don't really understand. Does my unit count as being under strength when it fights undeath? Yes, and this is super freaking important because if you have things like Sisters of Battle or maybe Death Company, it is a very, very big deal. And this is actually very explicitly written in the rules commentary. Note that at the time a model fights undeath, if it is destroyed, which may become important when determining whether that model's unit is below its starting strength or below half strength. So if I have a unit of Death Company Marines who run in and your opponent interrupts and kills them all, you can then spend 2 CP to fight undeath with them. Well, when you spend 2 CP to fight undeath with them, since you are 100% under half strength because you're dead, you will get to benefit from sustained hits too, which would be the ability sheet, which would be the natural ability of Death Company Marines. Or Sisters of Battle, they 100% will be at +1 to hit and +1 to wound because they are dead. So they are by nature under half strength. So yes, it does 100% work. And this is very, very important to understand. Now, the last thing I want to talk about today is a little bit of learning how to read rules and the timing of strats, because this is something that people confuse all the freaking time. So I'm going to clarify it for you so that you do not mess it up again. Stratagems have very, very specific instructions for when they can be used. And in order to know exactly what they say, you have to read the freaking stratagem. And a lot of people sometimes just don't do that. So you have to read the timing, and you have to read the target, and you have to read the effect. So, Armor of Contempt, for example. Let's just read it. When your opponent's shooting phase or the fight phase, just after an enemy unit has selected its targets. Okay. Target. 1 Adeptus Astartes unit from your army that was selected as the target of one or more of the attacking unit's attacks. So you get to select Armor of Contempt after you have been selected. That's really important to understand. Now, let me give you 2 other examples of stratagems and how they will actually operate. You have the Red Rampage. Now, this is something for Sons of Sanguinius. It says, 1 Adeptus Astartes unit from your army that has not been selected to fight this phase. Until the end of the phase, melee weapons equipped by models in that unit have the lance and lethal hits. So if I want to use Red Rampage on my unit, I actually have to do it before my unit is selected to fight. Before it's selected to fight. That means if I have a unit of Assault Marines that are going to attack a unit of, Terminators. Well, I have to declare I am using the Red Rampage strat before I activate my unit. Armor of Contempt, on the other hand, has to be declared after me, the attacker, declares I'm using Red Rampage. So if I charge with my Assault Intercessors and I try to kill the Terminators, and my opponent and I don't declare Red Rampage, my opponent then decides that they're using Armor of Contempt, and I realize I made an error. I say, oh no, I need extra help to kill you, and I decide to use Red Rampage. That's illegal. I can no longer do it as my unit has already been selected to fight. So you have to be very, very close attention to the timing of these strats. Now, not all strats are worded that way. So here's an example. This one is called Warrior Pride, and this is used by Votan. Sorry, let me just kind of fix my screen here for you guys. So this one has a different timing on it. When fight phase, anytime in the fight phase, target 1 Leagues of Votan unit from your army and 1 enemy unit that has 1 or more judgment tokens and is within engagement range of that Leagues of Votan unit. So this will be a little bit different. So let's say I have a unit of Hearthguard that charge into a unit of Terminators. The Hearthguard pile in and they start to activate, and my Terminators say, hey, you know what? I need a little help from this, so I'm going to use Armor of Contempt. The Votann player at that time can use Warrior. Unlike the Sons of Sanguinius player, the Votann player can use Warrior Pride simply because of the timing. So let's read that timing one more time so you get this. 1 leagues a Votann unit from your army, and 1 enemy unit that has 1 or more Judgment tokens. This is, of course, assuming the Terminators would have the Judgment tokens. So that is how you figure out the timing of strats. So basically, to make this short and sweet, you can never use Red Rampage after our Armor of Contempt has been declared. You can use Warrior Pride after our Armor of Contempt has been declared. And the way you determine whether or not you can use it is based off of the timing and the target. Does it have to select a unit that has not been selected? That is the key. So read your strategy really clear, really closely. So guys, this video, you might actually need to watch this again because some of these concepts can take a few repetitions to actually really sink in. So, but I really recommend you, I should really just recommend you watch this video again to make sure that you understand this, because this is going to apply basically to everything else into the game. And I think maybe I will actually just do like a Zoom, and I'm going to have as many people who want to join. Or maybe I'll just do a YouTube live and we'll do a full workshop exactly on how to actually just read these rules, because I think that's going to be really valuable. But these are some weird rules interactions that I find very valuable to know about. And I hope that this was good for you. So until next time, my Crumpers, hope you enjoy crumping your opponents every single day. And I love you. And I don't know, I'll see you on the next video. Okay, bye.